Does Old Testament God have a different view on war than New Testament God does?
No.
Okay.
and here's why.
Okay.
Well, God doesn't change, right? He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. All right.
Okay.
And so anytime
I have a question.
Okay.
So you say God doesn't change, but were just more of certain attributes coming out of God during the Old Testament than they do now?
No.
Okay, what?
Okay. No. Now, do we relate to God differently? Sure. Okay.
Okay.
And we do have to
technology changes.
What I mean by that is Christ. I mean, the change of everything was Christ's death on the cross and his resurrection.
Right.
Okay. So that ushered in a new covenant. Covenants are the way that God relates to his people or to his creation. Right.
Okay.
And so, for example, the covenant with Noah was a promise that God made to all of creation. I'm never going to flood the earth again. Right. So it's a universal covenant. It's a universal promise. Okay.
Okay.
The covenant to Moses is a specific covenant for a specific people for a specific time. Okay.
Okay.
There's now a new covenant that God has made with his people. Okay. And so there is a way that God is relating to his creation and to his people differently. Okay. And so I don't deny that part. But is God changing? No. And one of the things that's interesting to me is the way. So when I teach on the love of God or the heart of the Father, I actually use almost exclusively Old Testament passages.
Okay.
And
good for you.
And so I think there's this massive misnomer that God is not, that somehow the God in the Old Testament is this God of war or this God of vengeance or this God that's just looking to judge anyone, that's looking to open the ground and swallow up all the people.
Okay, well, that's what it seems like. So
right. And
Old Testament God was like Dick Cheney, and New Testament God is who smokes pot? Who's a is like a Bob Marley.
Bob Marley.
Was that good? Was that a good analogy?
I think that's terrible.
Okay.
Okay. God is not smoking pot.
That's the only.
That's awful.
They put Bob Marley stickers next to pot stickers at Hot Topic, so that's what made me think of it.
I understand where you got that from,
Yeah.
but that's not God. Okay.
All right. So
no, because I mean, for me, if you're looking at just those certain passages in the Old Testament, like you're looking and going, oh, well, this God is so wrathful and so, all that, like that's not the whole picture of the Old Testament God at all. I mean, the Old Testament God is the God of deliverance and the God of redemption and the God of how many chances? It's just over and over and over again that he gives his own people. But he's also the God of
make sure everyone's murdered.
No,
leave no one not murdered.
Okay. Now, again, when you're talking specifically about what we read in Deuteronomy, about how God is instructing the Israelites of how they are to deal with the fact that they're going into the promised land and that they're going to have to go to war. Like, the only way to have the land is to go to war.
Okay.
Now, granted, God does a lot of the miraculous, right? They go into the promised land, they go to Jericho, walls come down. Like, there's a lot of things that are happening that God is doing himself to cause his people to win.
Yeah, but the problem is Jesus comes and he says blessed are the peacemakers or whatever, right?
Yeah, he does
says that
in Matthew chapter 5.
And doesn't finish that up with, and if they don't want to make peace, murder
war.
All of them.
Right. No, I get you. It's again, but that the idea of blessed are the peacemakers, that's not just a New Testament principle. That's an Old Testament principle as well.
Okay.
And I mean, the whole idea of being at peace, right? Of being of having shalom, like that is down in the DNA of the people of God.
Yeah, but until God says go murder people.
But he's not saying go murder people.
Okay.
I mean, yes, they are taking the promised land. I'm not denying that.
Okay.
But he's also not saying just go wipe out everybody just randomly as you choose. That's not what he's saying at all. And so I think, again, I understand if you're reading like the book of Joshua, okay, I get it. That's maybe what you're coming away with, right? But that's one book.
And then you read
in the whole Bible.
Matthew, and Jesus is, hippie guy.
Well, hippie guy comes back at the end and destroys everybody. So I don't think there's really a fair statement to say the New Testament God is not this God.
He only got pissed after they killed him. Well, that's why he's coming back to murder everyone.
No. Well, and
life really bites you in the ass sometimes.
Yeah, well, what Jesus even says that he didn't come to judge in his first coming.
Okay.
He came to save. Okay. The second coming is the coming judgment. Okay. That's where he's coming as judge. And so, we alluded we alluded to it earlier.
We don't read that part enough.
No, we don't.
About Jesus.
No, we don't read at all about that, I don't think.
I like Revelation murder Jesus now.
That's now where you're at. Okay. So can I read Revelation?
I can get behind that guy.
All right. Well, let me read your Revelation murder Jesus.
Okay, cool.
I can't believe I just said that out loud. All right. So Revelation chapter 19, verse 11. Then I saw heaven open, and there was a white horse.
We've read this before.
Its rider is called Faithful and True, and with justice he judges and makes war. His eyes were like a fiery flame, and many crowns were on his head. He had a name written that no one knows except himself. He wore a robe dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God. The armies that were in heaven followed him on white horses, wearing pure white linen. And there you go. That may be the saints following him. I don't.
Oh, okay.
Or who are the armies? Is it the saints? I don't know. A sharp sword came from his mouth so that he might strike the nations with it. He will rule them with an iron rod. He will also trample the winepress of the fierce anger of God the Almighty. And he has a name written on his robe and on his thigh, King of Kings and Lord of Lords.
I can't hear you read that verse without wondering if the horses have wings or not.
Right. I mean, yeah.
Or if they're just falling out of heaven. Just a bunch of guys and horses just fly.
I'm pretty sure that's not it. Pretty sure that's not it. All right. So let me read. I'll skip down to verse 19. Then I saw the beast, the kings of the earth, and their armies gathered together to wage war against the rider on the horse and against his army. But the beast was taken prisoner, and along with it the false prophet, who had performed the signs in his presence. He deceived those who accepted the mark of the beast and those who had worshipped its image with these signs. Both of them were thrown alive into the lake of fire that burns with sulfur. The rest were killed with a sword that came from the mouth of the rider of the horse, and all the birds ate their fill of their flesh. So,
okay,
yeah, pretty war. And so my point just being is that it's not.
Sounded like it was really quick though.
Yeah. Well, and then what's interesting is in chapter 20, Satan is bound, okay, for 1,000 years, all right, and then after those 1,000 years, he's released for a short time.
To do what?
Okay, all right, and so
on bail.
Not on bail. All right. So in chapter 20, verse 7, when the 1,000 years are completed, Satan will be released from his prison and will go out to deceive the nations at the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them for battle. Their number is like the sand of the sea. They came up across the breadth of the earth and surrounded the encampment of the saints, the beloved city.
Okay.
Then fire came down from heaven and consumed them. The devil who deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur where the beast and the false prophet are, and they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. Okay. And so, yeah, so there is a judgment coming. And so when you talk about the New Testament God and Old Testament God, what I'm saying is in the Old Testament, I can find passages, a lot of passages that speak of God's mercy, that speak of God's grace, that speak of God's kindness. That's not just this warmongering God. Okay. And then in the New Testament, which is kind of always kind of seemed to be like it's like we just talk about, lovey-dovey Jesus, or the Bob Marley version you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, oh, no, but this guy here, he's here.
He comes and does all the murdering at the end.
Right. And so
it sounds like we don't do much.
No, I don't think so.
I feel like we just get down there like, oh, it's over.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, that's kind of the way it looks.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Where's my planet? Or whatever we believe.
We don't get planets. No. We do not get planets. All right. And so my point is so God is merciful and God is just. And so God's loving and God is just.
Okay.
And so there are elements of God extending his justice in Old Testament and elements of God extending his love in the Old Testament. And the same thing in the New Testament.
Okay.
And so that's all I'm trying to say here. We could get into all the technicalities of the specifics of the war and how to view that and how to understand all that God was asking the Israelites to do as they go into the Promised Land. And it sounds like we will get there, but they're not two different gods.